How much of your life have you actually given yourself permission to live? Not the life that you're capable of, not the life that you have been building toward, and not the life that you talk about. The life that you have actually stepped into. Because knowing what your life could look like and giving yourself permission to actually live it are not the same thing. And that distinction changed everything. Hey, thank you so much for being here. This is This Tree and Me. I am Cory J. Riggs. This is a place where self-leadership gets built through story, reflection, and real conversations. The LAF Method is how we do this. If this resonates, please subscribe. If you have already, thank you. I greatly appreciate you. If not, please check to see if you haven't. If you haven't, please hit that button for us. It really helps us out a lot. Also, share, bring someone along with you. Let's keep this conversation growing. Now let's get into it. So I want to talk about something that doesn't get named enough. The noise. Not the noise on the outside, the noise on the inside. The kind that builds and builds and will not settle no matter what you try. The kind that feels angry, hurtful, relentless. Most people push through it, or they try to meditate and pray their way through it. And some just try to stay so busy that they never hear it at all. Maybe it's a combination of all of them. And what I have learned, the noise is not the problem. The noise is the message. And it will continue and keep getting louder until you stop running from it and turn around and face it. And here's what I have come to understand about that noise. When life gets loud, when the anger comes up, when the frustration is everywhere, when nothing you try will quiet it, there is something underneath that needs to be heard. And it'll get louder and louder. And the louder it gets, the longer you've been avoiding it. The noise is not, sorry, the noise is what you've been avoiding and what it sounds like when it's just been waiting long enough. The instinct is to push through it, to get to the other side as fast as you possibly can, to force the peace. But what actually works is stopping, turning right at it, and letting it say everything it needs to say without arguing, without fixing it, without rushing through it. And what you usually find underneath that noise, it's not some big scary monster. It's a version of yourself that is scared, that has been protecting you the only way that it knows how. And sometimes that protection, it may look like anger from the outside. It may look like judgment. And it looks like pointing at everyone else. But underneath all of it, it is simply fear. A part of you that never got to feel safe enough to put that armor down. So as I've been going on this journey and getting ready to make the leaps that I'm getting ready to make in my personal life, my career, my business, there's a lot of noise and coming from a lot of different places. And I'm working through the meditations, I'm getting through them, and the next day gets louder. Okay. Still, I'm worried about money, or I'm worried about what it's going to look like in 6 months, or whatever it is. All right. Let's just get through the day. Let's continue doing the work. Let's get our boxes checked. Let's just keep going. Next day, it's louder. The next day, it's louder. And I had enough. And at that point, because of the work that I've done previously, I kind of knew which ego was talking to me, which protector. So I sat once again with him, looked at him and said, bring it. Whatever you need to say it. Because the noise was so bad, negative, and just not nice. And that was not nice either. He flat laid it out. You're not this, this is not this, and just coming at me. I just sat there, listened, and listened some more. Finally got exhausted. And then once we got through all that, the old saying, the bark is louder than the bite. It was just some scared parts of me inside about different things. Part of me scared about money, finances, right? What it's going to look like, how we're going to accomplish what we want to accomplish. Other parts are like, you're leaving what you know, you're leaving, your friends, your city, your job, your life, different things of that. And we just had a good conversation. And never would have gotten there if I wouldn't have just stopped and said, get it out. Because I'm tired of this. I've tried everything that I know how. Obviously, I didn't. Learning, bring it. And it was brought. I promise you that. But it was a good conversation. I needed it. The next days, they were flowing again. Wasn't that the fear and the anxiety and all that wasn't still there? But now we had an understanding of why we're doing what we're doing, what the plan is, what the scope is, just all of it. And we were on the same page. So just stopping, looking right at the noise, take it. Brought all the answers that I needed. So, hey, let's stop here for a second. When life gets loud, when the noise will not settle, what do you do with it? Do you push through it? Do you go around it? Because the noise always has a name. And it is always the loudest when it's been waiting the longest. The noise is what the avoided thing sounds like when it's been waiting long enough. And you know what came through to me in all of this? When there is something in ourselves that we cannot face, it does not disappear. It goes outward. We see it in other people. We name it in other people. We can find it everywhere in other people. And the thing worth noting in all of this is what bothers you the most in others is almost always something that we can recognize in ourselves. It doesn't mean that what we're seeing isn't true in them. But why are we seeing it? We recognize it. Just don't want to admit it all the time. It's easier to point that way. And I used to do this constantly. The judgment, the gossip, the stories about others, other people's shortcomings. And what I recognize now is that it was never really about them. It was about keeping the attention out there so it wouldn't come back here. And that's not a character flaw. That is a protection mechanism that was built from a part of you that was very scared, full of fear. And that part learned very early that offense is much easier than exposure. And the same pattern shows up in different forms as you get older. It can show up in the work. It can show up in your content. It can show up in the versions of ourselves that we present to the world. When we perform that version that has it all figured out, the version that we present that's healed, that's arrived, that put together self. That is the same protection, just wearing different clothes. The performance of a rival isn't sustainable. The authentic version, the one that's still scared, the one that's still building, the one that is still figuring it all out, that is the one that people actually connect with. So there's someone in my life that I care a lot about, so it's personal as well. But I've also just been working with them. They see the work that I'm doing. They're curious. So we've had great conversations. They've helped me. I've helped them. It's just a great relationship. And there's been a few things, but there's something right now in their life that I'm scared for them. So I asked them if I could step in and have a conversation with somebody. And I knew what I wanted to say. I went through it, how I want to say it to make sure it doesn't come off as mean, cruel, demeaning, attacking. I truly want this person to learn, to grow, to be a better person, to just be the human that they need and can be. But that personal side kept staying in there a little bit. And I didn't recognize it until after I got done asking them for permission, speaking with somebody else about it, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Why? The question, this is the literal question that came in my head. Why do you want to talk to them so badly? So I sat with that. So it changed the conversation. I see it in them because I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in my past. There's certain things I see in my future and I just didn't want, or my present, I just didn't want to admit it. Again, it's easier to help fix somebody else than fix that same thing in you. But that's not the work. Fix you to help others. I say it all the time. Spend all the time you need to on you, then help others. And recognize when you are helping someone, hopefully you can, why you're helping them. So that's going to be a question that I regularly ask myself. But this particular event is because it's also personal to me. Right? It's not just a client. It's just not a group that I'm sitting with. It's someone I love and care about dearly. But it changed the whole conversation I'm going to have with that person. I'm still going to have the conversation, but now it's going to be more like, here's what I've done in my past. Here's what I've done in my life. Here's the situations that I feel are similar to this that I think will help you see it from a different landscape. And allow them to do whatever they do with it. Because again, I can give the information, I can help. We can put whatever we want in their hands. What they do with it is upon them. But when you give it to them, it has to be from love. It has to be from a good place. So it was just one of many recognizable times where it's like, okay, I see why I'm doing this now. There's something in my life right now that's similar to that I need to face. And it was the authenticity of being vulnerable enough to share me fully to help that person. Not just help that person for the personal reasons of helping somebody else. So it was just, it was a good awakening. It's always a good reminder. I'm grateful that it came to me. So, hey, let's step out again. Where in your life are you pointing outward at something that you should actually be looking at you? Where are you making it about someone else? Because looking at yourself is just, it feels too uncomfortable. That is not judgment. That is protection. Protection has a cost. What we point out in others is almost always what we cannot face or do not want to face in ourselves. So after sitting with the noise, after naming the protection, something else arrived. Evidence. Not something new. Some things that had completely been forgotten. And there's a version of most of us that used to do things without caring how they looked. A version that tried things, that put itself out there. A version that would get up in front of people and do the thing. And just because they wanted to. Not because it was ready. Not because it was so well prepared. And not because it had permission from anyone else. I did it because I wanted to. That version does not disappear. That version gets buried underneath years of caring what people think, under enough failures that felt very personal, under the quiet accumulation of what if it doesn't work? What if I look bad? What if I'm not good enough? But buried does not equal gone. There's a difference between something being buried and something no longer being there. And recognizing that difference changes everything that is possible. So when I was having all these moments in the meditation and the writing and all of that, it was amazing what came to me. So shortly after the first traumatic event in my life when I was a young boy, I was in sixth grade, brand new school. So where we went, it was K through 5, then 6 through 8, then 9 through 12. So sixth grade, first year in a middle school, elementary's combining, right? All kinds of new people. We had a talent show. I signed up for it and I sang a Kenny Rogers song. I remember practicing. I had it down. Whether it was good or not, who knows? But I did it. And then in eighth grade, I was the lead in a play. And not only did we do it for elementaries, I had to do it for, there was 2 middle schools, another 6 through 8. I had to do it in front of all them kids. And I did it. I did singing competition when I was a freshman in high school. And then my grandpa died at the end of my freshman year. And there's been a few other times that this kind of showed up. There was a radio show in college. And if the mother of my children, my ex-wife, ever sees this, she'll shake her head and be like, "You're a fool." Probably other words, but you're a fool. My nickname was Big Daddy. And we went back to college and we were non-traditional students. And I started a radio show because I was in media. I wanted to be a sports announcer and stuff like that. I wish I would never have changed that major, but I did. I got talked into it by my advisor. And I did a radio show called The Big Daddy Experience, and it was Howard Stern like. That was when Howard Stern was really, really just starting to get big. I didn't care. I just did it. I had fun and I just loved it. So there's evidence from the past that it's still in there. It may be buried, but it's not gone. And there is a difference. And for most people, there is a point where giving permission to themselves stopped feeling natural. Something happened. Someone left, died, or life just got complicated enough that that version of you who just did things went quiet. And it is not always one dramatic moment that it goes quiet. Sometimes it's just a slow, steady withdrawal of the things that made you feel allowed to. For me, it was losing that one person whose presence made me feel like I could be exactly who I was without explanation, without performance, without having to earn it. And when that presence was gone, that permission went with it. And for a long time, I did not understand that was what I was chasing. Through the noise, the numbing, the building, the searching, was simply the feeling of being allowed to be me. And what hit me in this is that's exactly on August 1st, 2022, what the work has been since then. Every morning, every meditation, every hard conversation with all the scared parts inside. Learning how to give that permission back to myself instead of sitting and waiting for someone else to give it. My grandfather, Dominic Joseph, they called him DJ, his friends did. I spent a lot of time with my grandma and grandpa at their house. Both my parents worked, my siblings were a lot older, so I'd go to their house a lot after school, spent all summers and, breaks. It's just what I did. And I loved it. I absolutely loved being at their house all the time. And during the summers, I'd go golfing with Grandpa. Every single morning we go golfing. And then afterwards we go to what was called the Ramada Inn, but he would always say the Ramunda Inn. No one really knows why, but that was just his thing. But that was where all the old guys sat and had coffee and figured out the world's problems. And I was the only kid with them in that whole group. And I don't remember if Grandpa was a good golfer or not. I could not tell you a score. But I can tell you how much those times meant to me. Not because of the lessons that he'd sit there and teach me and tell me and speak to me and all that. My grandpa he was a silent teacher. He was loving. He was caring. He let me be me. Now, if we were at coffee and I'd be talking a little bit too much, this little 8, 9, 10-year-old kid in there just gabbing with the old men, every now and then, he'd just grab my arm, maybe give me a little nudge. And I knew I was talking too much. And I just stopped. And that was it. And that's every lesson. I can't tell you one time that man ever sat down and said, hey, you're doing this wrong. You need to do it this way. Well, he just let me figure it out. If I did it wrong, he'd be like, hey, I'm going to show you something. Or, hey, let's try this again. Whatever it was. He was just there. He was just present for me. And he simply allowed me to be me. And that's priceless. And even after what I went through, until his death, I still had that in me because he was in my life. And then that was gone one day. And so was the permission. Hey, one more time here really quick. Is there something in your life, something that you used to do without caring how it looked, that you stopped doing? And not because you lost the ability, But because somewhere along the way, you lost the permission, where did the permission go? The permission did not disappear. It stopped being given. And now it has to come from you. And you know what is funny about all this? After everything we just talked about, the noise, the protection, the buried version of yourself, I'm not on the other side of that. I'm still in the middle of it. Still scared at times, still loud in the head at sometimes. Still catching myself doing the exact things that I just spent 4 sections talking about. And that used to feel like failure to me. Like I should have been further along, that all the work that I have done should have fixed more of this by now. But what I understand now is that is not how this works. This work does not end at some point where you are finally healed, finally arrived, finally past it. You are better than you were a month ago, 3 months ago, a year ago. That is real. And you are still building. You are still in it. And that is exactly where you're supposed to be. Because if you think the person who has that is fully arrived, that no longer has struggles, that has nothing left to work on, that person can't sit with you in this. That version of you can't sit with you. But the person who can is the one who is still in it. The one who shows up anyway. Who does not wait to be finished to start living. That is what self-leadership looks like. Not the performance of being done, the practice of continuing. And every time I get that reminder, that messaging, as I did this week when I was doing all this, it's humbling. It's a gift. I'm grateful. I cried. I was so happy about it because I finally had that breakthrough again. I finally found out what was going on, why it was so noisy, why it was so loud. You're always building. You're never going to stop. You can choose not to grow. You can choose to live every day in the same suffering that you've been living in for however long you've been living in it. To stay in the same job, to stay in the same relationship, to stay in the same city, to stay whatever it is. You can choose to feel numb and live the same life that's making you miserable, making you unhappy, not giving you joy and fulfillment. But if you choose to grow, understand it never stops. Understand confidence comes from pain. Fulfillment comes from struggle and breakthrough. Sweat emotionally, physically. They're both hard. Choose your heart. Because one gives you joy, fulfillment, worthiness, love. The other one, I believe we all know what it gives us. The cyclical pain and suffering, the mundane life. You are still in construction. You are still in it. And that is not failure. That is simply the work. So as I'm building episodes for those who are new to this, I find truths that just really ring true as I'm building the episodes. So I like to share them at the end. Here's a few of them. And this one here, I'm quite proud of. This was a bar. This was a mic drop, and it's going to go in everything that I produce. It's written. It's going to be a mantra of mine. When I said it to myself, I felt it. I hope it hits you the same. There is more to life than the life you have given yourself permission to live. Here's how I said it to myself. There is more to life than the life I have given myself permission to live. So there's not more to build. There's no more to achieve. There's no more to figure out. But there's just more to actually live. More to step into. More that has been available that you have been standing outside of. Waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel worthy, waiting for that scared part of you to stop being scared. That part is not ever going to stop being scared. Because it was never given the permission to be okay with being scared. So the work is not making it brave. The work is giving it permission. Permission to fail, permission to look bad, permission to not have it all figured out, permission to just be. That is the self-leadership I talk about. Not controlling the outcome, not performing the arrival, giving yourself permission to actually live the life that has always been available. You do not have to wait for someone to give you that permission. And you never did. So at the end of every episode, I also like to have some reflection questions on the truths. If there's some that you'd love to share with me that I didn't cover there's many. Those are the ones that stuck out to me. I'd love to hear the ones that stand out to you, or give me feedback on the ones that I spoke of there. Same with the reflections. If you have some things that you caught from this that resonated that you wanted to reflect on, share those questions with me. Here's some that I'd like you to sit with after we're done here. What part of your life are you still waiting for permission to live? What is the noise in your life pointing to that you have been avoiding? What did you used to do before you stopped giving yourself permission? Who did you used to be? And what would change if you stop performing that healed version and just showed up as the one who is still building. There is more to life than the life I have given myself permission to live. Give yourself that permission. That is the work. Again, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. This one came from a very, very hard place and time. And I am so grateful for what came out. Blessed. If it resonated, if you've subscribed, please check again. Sometimes it does do that. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It means the world to me. It keeps the lights going, keeps the conversation going. Also, share it. Bring more into the conversation. Let's really start growing. Let's get as many people involved as we can. You are the leader this work is building. Keep showing up for yourself. Everything else follows. This is This Tree and Me. I am Cory J. Riggs. I love you all. Be blessed.